Welcome everybody. I'm Justin. This is Pansy. It's the Friends with Benefits podcast. Thank you, everyone, for watching and supporting. We're
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining.
we are on episode 47 now, which is kind of crazy. And we're only gonna keep going, guys. It's only gonna get better and better. So, we're gonna keep this showboat rolling. But we've got a cool guest today, who was gracious enough to come on and talk to us. And I'm gonna bring him up here in just a minute. But how are you doing, Pansy?
I'm all right. All of a sudden, my hearing is
No, don't lose your hearing on me.
muffled. I can't.
Don't lose your hearing on me. Yeah.
But
Well,
other than that, I'm all right.
other than
It'll
that, you're all
come
right.
back here in a second.
All right. Well, I appreciate you being here, and I'm really excited about where the show is going. We've got some cool stuff coming up as well, and we'll plug all of that as time goes on. But I do want to reiterate, this podcast, our community, it's all about networking. It's about business, entrepreneurship, real estate investing. I know it's kind of a broad range, but we like to really focus on the real estate investing side. We like to focus on the entrepreneurial side. But more importantly than all of that, it's about coming in here, joining the group and networking and meeting people. We've got people like our guest Bill, that are here sharing their time with us and sharing their
Their
experience with us,
knowledge.
their
Yeah.
knowledge, and you guys being able to come in here, jump into the Zoom and ask questions. Everybody should be taking advantage of that. But for those of you who watch after the fact, we appreciate you as well. And I'm gonna get this out of the way now. Like and subscribe because it helps us. And also, by the way, give us a comment. If there's something you guys would really like to talk about or like to see, let us know because it definitely helps us out, and we can work on bringing that to you and bringing that value to you as much
Or
as
if you'd
possible.
like to come on and share with us,
Yeah,
we'd like to have you come
yeah,
meet us,
yeah.
share your knowledge.
Yeah, we're only growing, man. We've had a lot of our friends on the show, and a lot of people have shared a ton of value on the show. And go check out our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And I'll have, again, if you're watching after the fact, I'll have the link in the show notes. But without further delay, we're going to be talking about mastering multifamily. And I know, again, that's kind of a broad topic, but I thought our guest today is someone who we can really kind of dig into some of these questions, especially from the newer perspective, from the new person's perspective, trying to get into multifamily. We can dig into this with Bill, and so I'm excited to get this going. But without further delay, I'm going to bring up Bill. What's up, Bill?
Good. Thanks for having
Well,
me.
Absolutely.
welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you coming in, bringing your value, bringing your experience and knowledge and all of that fun stuff here to the show. And we'll get into how Bill and I know each other, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for those who don't know you, Bill, and I always start the show out this way, but for those who don't know you, give us a little bit about how you kind of where you hail from, how you got started in all this in the multifamily game.
Yeah, easy. I am in Middle Georgia, and I have been in the multifamily business right at 20 years now, a little over, right at 21 years, a little over 20 years. Yep, started in 2005. I was a pilot by trade,
Oh,
just
wow.
doing normal job like everybody else, sort of a 9 to 5. I just flew airplanes. And I saw friends of mine that were flipping houses and doing small residential assets, and they were making as much, flipping a house or two as I was all year long working. And so
Yeah.
that's sort of my aha moment. And I started reading, studying. I was rich dad, poor dad, all the usual stuff. And
Yeah. Yep.
went through all that. And my first deal was a duplex. And I had saved up $10,000, and the duplex was cash flowing a few $100 a month. And I walked away from the aviation career, went into real estate full time. Been here ever since. I've done over 1,000 units, or I've created a portfolio of over 1,000 units. Uh,
Wow.
and management company, built a management company, was upwards of 16 employees, so it's vertically integrated. We in-house managed everything, so owner operator for 20 years, all in Georgia. My entire portfolio was down here in
Oh,
Georgia.
wow. So you say it's in one state, so everything that you owns in Georgia. That's amazing. That's
There you
amazing.
go. That's sort of a one paragrapher. There you go.
No, that's perfect. And by the way, when was it so like from the time you noticed, hey, look, these guys over here are doing really well. making what I make in a year doing a couple of flips.
Yeah.
From that aha moment, like how long did it take you to get into your
A
first deal?
year.
Took
Yeah,
about a
one
year.
year,
Okay. Took you.
right over a year. Yeah, and we're talking to people that are new to the program or newer to multifamily. What I find, by the way, I've been teaching for over 10 years now as well. So I coach, I work with Multifamily Wealth Nation, and I've been teaching for a long time.
Yeah.
9 months, 9 to 12 months is the average for a close, right? So I'll say the sort of curve, maybe 9 to 18 months for average person to close their first deal. 9 being on the early side. If you go closer, if you go sooner than 9, you're doing really well. But 9 on the early side, 12 months being sort of the peak of the hump, and then
Yeah.
maybe 18 and
Yeah, and I
25.
can tell you that's kind of where, now I've been in Multifamily Wealth Nation for a little over a year now. Going on probably about a year in 4 or 5 months, something like that.
You're
But
busy.
yeah, and again, one of the biggest struggles is obviously finding that deal, finding the right
Yeah,
deal, right? And
right.
I know a lot of people, I know you get a ton of questions about that, and we'll get into that. But you mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad. What so in your initially getting started and kind of learning this whole process, is there any particular, I always like asking guests this, but is there any particular books, that maybe a newbie that you could tell a newbie to go start reading before they
Yeah,
kind of
I
jump?
always that's always a good one. It's a good mindset book. It's
Yeah.
it's not something that's really going to teach you the ins and outs of how to run a business, but it's a good mindset book. So I would say definitely start with that one. Anything really on underwriting, multifamily underwriting and operations, things like that. You want to read all of that. I'll give you maybe a little more of an outlier answer. I always direct everybody towards negotiation and reading on
Ooh,
negotiation, right? So when
yeah.
everybody asks me like, "Hey, what should I read?" Instead of giving you the normal, business books and multifamily books and that kind of stuff, I want to go on an offshoot and tell you study negotiation, right? So I recommend two books, and I recommend them in order. Number one, Getting to Yes by Robert Fisher, William Ury. Getting to Yes,
Getting to
number
yes.
one, and then number two, Never Split the Difference by uh, so they're right, never split the difference. Um,
Yeah, that one. And
That
by the
I
guy.
way,
totally said I'm
yeah.
assuming that guy, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. No, I
never
know
split the
exactly
difference.
I know
Yeah.
exactly what book you're talking about.
Is
That's
it
actually
Simon Sinek?
No, hold on one second.
Oh,
Look at my shelf over there. I just totally
I
drew a
know
blank
what
as
you're
is
talking about.
on my
Never
mind.
split the
I
difference. I
even doing a
can't
podcast.
remember
I'll
who
tell you
the
right
author.
now. I'll tell you right now. It's
I
by
don't know that.
Chris Voss. Chris
Chris
There
Voss.
Voss.
you go,
God,
Yeah,
duh.
Voss.
Thank you,
yeah,
Chris Voss. Like one of those
yeah,
things, like senior
yeah.
moment. Anyway, so yeah, Chris Voss. Never split the difference. So the reason I recommend those two books in that order is it's a really good basis for negotiation. So yeah, there's lots of business books, multifamily books. We can talk about that, but
Yeah.
yeah, for everyone listening, pay attention to the business of negotiation. Those two books in that order. Reason being is because Chris Voss really goes back and unravels a lot of what was taught in the older school of negotiation. And so
Yeah.
if you've read Never Split the Difference, but you've not read Getting to Yes, you may have missed a lot of his references in that book. So he references it. He doesn't outright mention Getting to Yes, but he references that. So I
Mhm.
read that book and then I read Voss and went, oh, that makes total sense. So really
That's
good.
actually a
And
really good tip.
yeah,
I have read Never Split the Difference. I'm gonna go check out Getting to Yes
go
because
check
that,
out Getting to Yes. That when he picks on IBM and he picks on some of the old sort of business style negotiations, that's
yeah,
exactly what he's talking about. He's
yeah,
literally referencing Getting to Yes. But it's a great combination because Getting to Yes focuses on negotiation from a business perspective.
yeah,
And Chris Voss takes
yeah,
a very unique point of view from this hostage negotiation perspective, which is great. And it makes for a really interesting topic. It sells a lot of books. But
right.
never split the difference is kind of a ridiculous comment in business.
Yeah,
That's fine in a hostage negotiation, as he makes the joke. Of course, you're not going to split a hostage in half. Fine. Are we going to split deals? Yes, of course.
yeah,
So that's where I really like the combination of the two. That you don't want to have this extreme point of view that he sort of presents of never split the difference. Well, that means you're
yeah.
not being very negotiable, which I hope you're not in a hostage negotiation, but in a business deal, you're going to need to learn how to negotiate a little better than that. So,
I
but
would
both really, really
say,
good.
yeah, I would have to 100%. And that's still something that I need that I'm constantly trying to build on that muscle because it really does. It's not. and we could probably argue about this a little bit. Some people are more inclined than others, you could say, towards the negotiations, towards sales, right? Sales and negotiations. But it's still something that is learned, that it's not just something you're born with. Like you can be outgoing and have that inclination towards sales and negotiations. Like maybe you like to debate, right? Maybe debating is something that you're really good
Sure.
at. Those types of inclinations. But again, the real art of negotiation is something that you have to build that muscle, and the only way you build that muscle, obviously by reading and understanding the fundamentals, but really getting out there and doing it right and
Yeah,
getting
absolutely.
shot down.
Yep.
To that question, like how many times, you know in your beginning stages, like how many times did you have some humbling moments when you were trying to
Oh,
negotiate?
yeah, tons and
Countless,
tons.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How long do you have? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, lots of times in different scenarios for different things. But
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
negotiation is one of those topics that when I bring it up, I always notice that it's kind of a very ego-based thing. Everybody immediately goes, "Oh yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
good at that. I'm good. I'm good at that." And what I found is
Yeah.
almost nobody is.
Uh,
So if you were one of the people that immediately thought, "Yeah, I know how to do that," I promise you, you're wrong on some level.
yeah.
Maybe not 100% wrong, but I promise you, you're not as good as you think.
You're definitely not as good
Go
as you think.
practice.
Now, there's
I
people that
promise
have
you're
been
not.
doing it. There's people that have been doing it for a long time that can say, hey, I
Sure.
actually am good at this. But yeah, if you're new, and I'm guilty, by the way, I'm guilty. I thought I was more, let's just say further along than I really was. Let's just put it that way.
Right. Everybody
And
says that. Everybody thinks that.
everyone,
I'm a great
right? Yeah.
negotiator.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah. Are you though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you good? Are you good haggler or are you a good negotiator? Right. Just because you argue doesn't mean you negotiate.
That's right. That's right. And just because you're good at strong arming someone,
Right.
right, it
Exactly.
doesn't mean you're a good negotiator either. There can be plenty of times I've spoken to people that got into good deals simply because it was right place, right time. That doesn't mean you're a good negotiator either.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Because luck, luck
It's
is a
luck,
key
right?
part of this,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, if we're going to talk negotiations here, in getting into something, like, obviously jumping from single family to multifamily is a it's sort of a natural progression, I would say, for a lot of investors, right? I talk to a lot of investors that say they wish they would have started in multifamily. I'm probably one of those investors that said I wish I would have just started in multifamily. But I think starting in single family gives you a lot of skills that really help, that do translate. But it's also, there's a lot of things that are like totally new, right? That you get
Yeah,
into with
sure.
multifamily. So it
Absolutely.
is kind of, there is definitely a learning curve in transitioning into multifamily, and understanding the numbers. And we can get into this a little bit, but if you're going to be a good negotiator, you need to know, I would argue, and I don't know how you feel about this, but correct me if I'm wrong, but you really need to understand what you are going to offer for that property. Like what the numbers are that work for you for that property, and knowing like this is the line. We're not crossing this line, right? And once you know that, that's kind of, for me, that's kind of like the starting points. Like first I need to know what we're even walking into, and what number makes sense for us before I even get into the negotiation part of it, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah. There's an old adage, and I didn't make this up. There's an old saying: "Money is made when the value is known." Right. So think about that in almost anything. If you don't know what something's worth, you don't really know what a good deal is. If you don't know what a good deal is, how do you expect to make money? You would be luck at best.
Yeah, yeah,
So it all breaks down to the fundamental of knowing what a good deal is.
yeah.
I even in the beginning of one of my books, I talk about, I say, there's only two things you really need to understand in real estate, and that's the values in the area, and look at more deals than the next guy.
That's a
That's
really
it.
good
That's
point.
all you need. You need to know what stuff is worth.
Yeah,
You need to look at more deals than your competition.
yeah.
Period. There's nothing else I can tell you about
It's
multifamily. Nothing anybody else can tell you about multifamily or
it's
real
so
estate of
it's
any
so
kind.
simple,
Yeah.
right?
You know what something's worth, and you look at a lot of deals, you will find a good deal. Now,
Yeah,
that doesn't mean that you can fund it. Right, paying for the deal, that is a separate conversation. But if we're talking about just finding deals, if you know what you're looking for, and you look at a
yeah,
lot of them,
yeah,
it's competency times frequency equals revenue.
yeah.
Again, I found that in a sales book once, but competency times frequency, yeah, equals revenue. That's it.
That's
So if you know
such,
what you're
and
doing, you do it a lot, you're gonna get paid, right?
you're gonna eventually now, and I would say um, and I'm guilty of this, boy. Like, look, you got to know what those numbers actually look like. How long do you want it to take for you to get your first deal? So what kind of time frame are you giving yourself to get your first deal? Like Pansy and I right now, we're giving ourselves this first quarter to get into our first co-living deal, right? So and pad split deal. Now that's not multifamily, but we
Sure.
know based on those numbers, based on when we want to get that deal done by, we know how much we're supposed to be doing every week, right?
There you go.
How many offers we need to be putting out every week. And honestly, for most people, if you're not good at sort of reverse engineering that, ask ChatGPT to go through it with you, right? I mean,
Love it.
seriously.
Absolutely. That's my answer to like 85% of the
Yeah.
questions I'm asking these days. I
Yeah.
don't know. Ask ChatGPT.
Ask
I don't know.
ChatGPT.
Yeah,
Now,
Google it. Yeah, Google it. Yeah.
but
Yeah, Gemini.
it'll
Yeah.
give you like you can ask it, give me a step by step you know instructions on how I can get into my first deal within the next 3 months, right? And it'll literally break it down for you. And that's a big help, right? And understanding what how many of those, because you talk about, look at more deals in your competition. Well, maybe if you're just trying to get a certain number of deals for yourself, maybe you don't need to look at more than your competition. Maybe you just need to look at enough or enough to hit that particular goal you're trying to hit,
Yeah,
right?
whatever your goal is, yeah,
Yeah.
you need to look at enough deals that the competition doesn't consume your good deals.
Yeah.
You can pass
That's a
on
good
them.
point.
You can cherry pick. You can close the best of the best if you like. But
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good point.
you need to look at several. In multifamily, I always try to tell my students two, three a week. If you can bring in two or three deals to analyze, and so I don't necessarily mean good deals or you need to close or anything like that. I'm just saying two or three touches a week that hit your desk, offering memorandum, you underwrite it, you take a look at it, something twice a week, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah,
And
that's
a lot,
actually that was one of
yeah,
the big things I took away from your meetings in the mentorship, and we'll talk about multifamily wealth nation here too, because that
sure,
you're a teacher there, like you had
mm-hmm.
mentioned, and my mentor, you along with my other mentor Josh,
Right,
have put together a tremendous mentorship that really
appreciate it.
breaks it down, like takes you through the very first steps you need to take. I mean, I think Josh has even got it to the point now, like, look, you can take the longer route and take your time if you want, but here's the game plan if you want to hit it within X amount of time, right? And so, and it really opened my eyes to just really how much goes into it,
Yeah,
and but it's achievable, right? A
yeah,
lot of
absolutely.
people, I feel like a lot, especially new people, are like, you know what? I need to start in single family, um, because multifamily is just too high level. And I don't know how you feel about that, but we have a friend of ours that talks about this, but it's like if you're gonna go snowboarding, if you want to learn how to snowboard, do you have to go learn how to ski first before you learn how to snowboard? It's like, no, you don't, right? If you just put your time in and learn to snowboard, you're going
One
to
or
be
the
way
other, yeah,
further along, right? Than if you had tried starting to learn skiing first and then start learning snowboard, right?
yeah,
So, and I feel it's just the same thing applies here with multifamily. Yes, there's a learning curve, but like anything, right? So let me ask you a question. When we talk about the numbers, when you look at a deal, or actually maybe better yet, if we had to break down like a 4 or 5 step process from beginning to getting your first deal, I mean, the first thing is get educated, right? So start educating yourself.
yeah.
To understand what value looks like. Like how do you determine what the value is of that property that you're looking at?
Right.
And maybe three at that point would be talking to brokers, building
Yeah,
your network,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So what would you say after that? So you should talking to brokers, building your network, but building, maybe step 4 would be obviously getting your first contract, or
Mhm.
actually funding, right? Putting together
Yeah,
your
funding, yeah.
funding.
Yep. Well, I'll break it down like this. I teach a three system approach, three-step
Oh, good.
system
Okay.
to finding deals: deal flow, deal analysis, networking. Those are your three
Love it.
systems that you have to have in this business. And so everything that we're ever going to talk about will fall under one of those three categories: deal flow, deal analysis, networking. Deal flow, that's selecting your market. That would be sort of step number one, is figuring out where am I going to be trying to buy real estate. So
Yeah.
market selection, working with realtors, going to sellers, getting deals coming in the door. That's deal flow and all the systems we put in place for that. Second
Yeah.
is deal analysis, and that's what we've been kind of hitting on. What
Yeah.
is a good deal? Based on what criteria? Is it based on my money, or am I getting investor money? What about the
Right.
lender? The all of these things come together to decide deal analysis. What is a good deal? And then third is I take the from the old adage, your network is your net worth. So networking being the ability to fund your deals. So
Yeah.
if you can bring them in the door on a regular basis, understand what you're looking at, and fund them on a regular basis, that's it. That's all you need to be able to do. Funding gets into the lending, raising private capital, syndication, all of those three things. So those are your three categories. Bring them in the door, know what you're looking at, be able to pay for it. If you can do that
Be
on
able
a
to pay
regular
for it.
basis,
I love that. I love
that's
how
it.
that's a great simplistic way of breaking it down, because I mean that's obviously those are the three main the
The
three
three
main things you
main
need.
things, everything kind of
Yeah.
fits under one of those three things.
Yeah.
They're all subtopics past that. That's as fundamental in 20 years as I've been able to break the business down to.
No, that's
You know,
beautiful, actually. I like that
yeah.
a lot. So was there ever a point like, when you look at a deal today, so now let's say this all kind of set up, and you're building your network, you've got deals starting to come in. You've been talking to brokers, so you've got your kind of your deal flow.
Mhm.
You've got a good idea of what value looks like, and how to really look at a deal and analyze a deal. And by the way, folks, if you need help analyzing a deal, DM us, DM me, or DM Bill. Hit up Bill too. Better yet, join the mentorship.
There you
So you're right.
Mhm.
So
go.
when you're looking at a deal today, and do you notice something like immediate, like when you're looking at and analyzing a deal, is there something that you notice immediately that you would say maybe most new investors either overlook or completely misunderstand? Is there something at the top of your mind that maybe
Yeah,
they,
age of the building right out of the gate. That's the lowest hanging fruit I can come up with would be
yeah, yeah,
older buildings, misunderstanding the value of an older building or the lack of value in an
yeah,
older building, right? That's
yeah,
the most direct answer. The most biggest mistake I see right now is people looking at older buildings. When I say older, I'm gonna say 1960s, 1970s, in that range, right?
yeah, yeah,
Older, and maybe even a little bit older than that,
yeah,
not understanding that those buildings are going to have a lot of hidden expenses in them. The
yeah,
plumbing, if it's original, probably is pretty much shot. You're going to be replacing all the plumbing soon. Electrical, subflooring, roofs, parking lots, things that are not going to immediately translate into making money, things that are
yeah,
not going to immediately translate into rent going up, right? And so what that
yeah,
means is that you have to take it off the purchase price. So we can think about multifamily. I'll put it like this: multifamily is just a whole bunch of single family all on one spot. So forget all the multifamily stuff. Just think about one apartment. All right, think about it like a
yeah,
house. You've got to buy this thing and put money into it, and that has to be less than the after repair value.
right,
Very simple,
right,
right? It's
yeah,
just like a house. It's your cost basis, what you're buying it for, plus what you've got to put into it needs to be less than after repair value, or you're wasting your time.
yeah,
Apartments are no different, right? And so what I'm saying is just like that house, when you see this old property, and you're thinking, gosh, there's no telling what's going on inside there, and the plumbing and the floors and this, that, and the other. That makes the valuation process riskier, especially for new investors, right? So
yeah,
that's where I'm kind of warning everybody from single family to multifamily. If you're dealing with older properties, be careful. You really need to understand the cost of what you're getting into. It's
yeah,
where I see the some of the biggest mistakes in the business, and I hear it all the time. Stories where people come in, they buy something on paper it was going to cash flow, and the plumber's the only one making any money over there, sort of story. So
yeah.
do watch out for that. That's the biggest one, easy. And then the next one is a long way away from age.
Yeah, right. Well, and we talked about, you and I had talked about that when we spoke the
Yeah.
other day, and I think that was probably one of the biggest gold nuggets. And you said I think you guys are sticking with 1985 and
I
newer
am, yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yeah, that
85,
and that's
90
a
or newer, yeah.
personal thing, right?
Right.
That's obviously a
That's
personal preference.
personal. Right. Now, I
Great.
would buy something in the 60s or 70s. And I want to be clear for all the listeners here, because people will later on misquote me and say, oh, Bill said, old properties are bad, or don't buy old properties. No, I'm not saying that. I'm
Yeah,
saying be very careful about the price
Yeah.
of older buildings. What I am saying is in today's market, we're not seeing those properties priced risk adjusted. I'll put it that way. We're not seeing the price really reflect a risk adjustment these days.
Right.
It's just too old for that age, right?
Right.
It's too expensive. I'm saying it's too expensive for that age. You're not going to want to pay that much for a property that old. And if we want to talk cap rates for getting into multifamily, we're seeing low cap rates, meaning high price on older buildings, and that's just a mistake. So watch that
Yeah.
price to age ratio. It's getting out of
Yeah.
whack.
Well, and to your point, right, like with the older buildings now, is there something beyond obviously the hidden costs and everything? Is there something from the lending side too? Are you going to have a harder time getting funding now for these older
Yes, we
buildings?
can. This is a quite a
Yeah.
deep rabbit hole we can go
Yeah.
down. It depends on how far you want to go. Yeah. All right. First off,
Yeah.
let's talk about lending. Then we have insurance. Don't forget insurance.
That's
And then we
true.
have inspections. Don't forget the city and the county.
Yep.
So stop me when you're ready. Yeah, all of these things start to come into play. Lending. All
Yep.
right, right there, we're seeing loan to value fall and rates go higher on older buildings. The lenders are getting sensitive to this.
Yep.
They are sending out for the appraisal. We are seeing the appraisers lower appraisals on these older buildings, right? And so what
Yeah.
I've seen a few times recently is a lender coming back and retrading the loan to value with a buyer, borrower right before closing. Hey, we went and took a look at the building. We got this, we got that. We re-looked at the inspection, whatever the case. We've changed our mind.
Wow,
Side
that's
note,
interesting.
I think most lenders don't actually look at the paperwork until about 3 days before closing anyway.
Yeah.
My
Yeah, right.
opinion, my jaded opinion, but
You're
I
probably right.
swear they wake up about 3 days before closing and go, "Oh,
Yeah.
we should look at the numbers," and boom, they
Lenders
change
are
their
just
mind.
as lazy as all of us, right?
Oh, I'm telling you, well, yeah. So that's a common thing, right? So
Yep.
this is where we want to be careful, but yeah, so lenders are getting touchy on these older properties. Your loan is going to be riskier, therefore your earnest money, your time, your energy
They're
is going
gonna
to be
right. They're gonna require more skin in the game up front,
correct.
right? Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right,
And you're
right.
probably gonna be looking at prepaid, points and all that fun stuff up front, right? All of that
Correct, or escrows.
or
And
escrow.
if you're
Yeah.
getting into like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans, they are going to have you put up a lot of money in escrow to go ahead and cover the repairs on that property. So
Oh,
you're gonna have to watch
interesting.
that. Insurance
Interesting.
being next. Yeah, we're seeing
Wow.
insurance rates really starting to go up on some of those older buildings, or insurance companies requesting high ticket renovations or high ticket remediations. I had a 152 unit where the insurance company came in and just demanded we replace all of the breaker boxes,
You're like, whoa,
instantly.
what?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, it was only $1,000 a panel, right? So
yeah,
it's just
right.
$152,000. Go
Yeah.
ahead, write a check, and so
Wow.
that was an uncomfortable afternoon, and so things like that. That's insurance, and then there inspectors. We're noticing the inspectors are getting a lot more cautious about
Mm.
older buildings. I believe that has a lot to do with, say, the Champlain Towers that collapsed in South Florida.
Oh, that's a yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. That's
Other
right.
buildings that have kind of had some issues. This is my opinion, but I think these inspectors are once bitten, twice shy, and
Yeah.
they don't want their name on the building that
Yeah.
is going to hurt somebody. And
Well,
they don't
because
remember.
that
They
that
don't.
one that well, and I don't mean to cut you off, but that one
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
that collapsed. I mean, there was a lot of obviously, look, there was a lot of deferred maintenance, and it was very preventable, right?
Sure,
And it's all your hindsight's always 2020, but
sure.
and of
Well,
course,
you
yeah,
would
now,
think in general, if you take the job as an inspector, that if you have integrity,
yeah,
you're not going to want to sign something that you really think is going to collapse. I mean,
yeah,
I couldn't just sign off on something and knowing that it could possibly collapse,
yeah,
No argument there. Yeah.
yeah,
My only comment is I'm noticing they are less lenient. And I'll put it like that. For
yeah,
whatever reason, I agree with you, Nancy, but we are noticing they are less lenient, less of a sense of humor these days when it comes to building inspections.
I
yeah,
think that's a
So yeah,
good thing, though, honestly.
it is a good thing. It is definitely an out of your pocket thing.
yeah. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna take the high or low road. I am going to say get out your checkbook because that's the first answer, right? So
Yeah.
we can discuss the morality
Well,
of it.
there's
The bank
always pros
account,
and cons, right? To a
yeah, the
lot of
bank
things.
account does
There's
not
always
care.
pros and
It says pay
cons.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
just pay
So,
it. There you go.
There's trade-offs for everything, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about now knowing some of that, um, understanding that there's gonna, if you're looking at older buildings, you've got to be extremely careful and know what you're walking into because there, again, it's like getting the thing under contract and getting the thing purchased is not the hardest part. The hardest part is obviously operating it and all of
100%.
those expenses that start to creep up as time goes on, unexpected things that you just were not counting on, right? Coming out of the woodwork, right? So when you're looking at, if just to touch on underwriting a little bit, and I know underwriting kind of, I don't like spending a whole lot of time on underwriting because a lot of people are, kind of makes people's eyes glaze over a little bit. But, me personally, I love underwriting. I like looking at the numbers and understanding what I'm
Sure.
getting into. But, you know, there's this sort of distinction between underwriting and reality. Like you can make an underwriting sheet and the numbers look however you want them to look, right? That's the thing about
Correct.
math and numbers, right?
Correct.
What would you say from an underwriting perspective? What do you say is the biggest gap that you see between, how deals look on a spreadsheet versus like how they actually perform once you finally own them? Once you've purchased the property and you finally own them, is there
Well,
something that stands out for you?
yeah, the person doing the underwriting.
The person do
That's that's the standout. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's not the tool, it's the carpenter, right?
yeah,
It's the
yeah.
person holding the tool.
That's
Yeah,
a good
no.
point. That's a good point.
Yes, I say the answering your question a little more seriously, I think the people that don't look at enough deals to be confident are the
Right,
ones that
right.
generally make the mistake, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So this is why I kind of
yeah,
go back to looking at 2 or 3 deals a week. If you're looking at deals on a very regular basis, you get the confidence of knowing what a good deal is and looking at it. When you stop and you lose momentum,
yeah,
guilty, you all of a sudden wake up one day and you go, oh my gosh, I haven't been looking at deals. Now you're just hitting the accelerator, you're rushing out, you're running through deals, you're plowing through. That's where the mistakes are made, generally
yeah,
speaking, right?
yeah,
Is slowing down, and then life, maybe spouse or somebody kind of comes along and goes, hey, you've signed up for this program, you've done this, you've done that. Why aren't we rich? Where's our property? And then all of
right.
a sudden you're in a rush to get a deal done. That's where the mistakes are made generally. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's in the
that's a good point.
underwriter. Yeah, so I would say it's in the emotional point of view of the underwriter generally. And then if it's not something like emotional or something along those lines, then it just breaks down to simple math skill,
Yeah,
simple skill and ability to just know what are you looking at, what are the right numbers, are you putting in the
yeah,
correct data? And that's what I do, and that's what I help people do is to really understand
yeah.
what
And,
they're doing.
I will say this too. Bill has been instrumental in helping me tune up my skills in underwriting. So absolutely uh top notch when it comes to underwriting
Appreciate it.
and
Thank you.
looking at numbers
Yeah,
and all
of
that. But
course.
and I appreciate your help with it too because it's, there are things there are assumptions again that I've made in learning underwriting that you've helped me kind of see actually you kind of want to tune your perspective there a little bit when you're looking at
Yep.
these
Yep.
certain things. And again, without getting too much into the weeds, there's we could talk about the killer assumptions, right? I'd say the three things, and this was something that you shared with me, but also Josh shared with me early on. It's
Mhm.
like there's a couple of things in underwriting that you just can't get wrong. And those are typically, at least from my experience so far, is taxes, insurance, and location, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Location.
Those are all very important. Absolutely.
I,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm sure you probably have your some other things that you
Sure.
would probably put in that list, but for those are the things like if you get those numbers wrong,
Yeah.
they're deal killers. They can be deal
Yeah.
killers.
Plus, garbage in, garbage out. I mean,
Yeah,
if you're just going to get garbage data and
yeah,
analyze it,
Yeah.
That's not going to do you any good. Yeah.
Right.
You
Right.
know, and we use templates and underwriting templates, and I recommend that for multifamily that you use, some sort of underwriting template. But
Yeah.
those things are just calculators, right?
Yeah.
So if you're still putting in bad data, the template's irrelevant.
So yeah, it's going to spit bad data back out at you, right? And if you, for example, like with every deal you're looking at, actually, and I don't want to go too far over here, but um, when you're talking to brokers or when you look at a deal and be like, look, this isn't a great area. This looks interesting. The price looks a little high, but there may be something there that I don't see. Maybe they see something I don't see, and you ask them for the financials, and you're looking over the financials for the deal. Um, you know, for me, if I get a weird feeling, like if the numbers look weird that that they're providing, if the financials look
Sure.
strange or something's off or something looks like it's missing, I don't just assume I don't assume anything anymore. I literally ask them. And that's
Mhm.
obviously we're getting into a little bit more of the underwriting thing, but you get into the point where you know, look, we're really interested in this property, but the information that you're providing me doesn't justify what you're asking for, which is a lot of cases, right? The vast
Right.
majority, in
Yeah.
fact, things
Yeah.
that I've looked at,
More than a few.
more
Yeah.
than few. Yeah, I mean, but at that point, look, you do have to kind of you do have to do your research, and I'm no longer I'm no longer hesitant to just straight up ask the broker, hey, something doesn't look right with this. Is this all they have? Right?
Yeah.
Because if this is all they have and this is what I've got to go off of, then I can tell you that this is what our number is going to look like, right? Based on what you guys provided me. Unless we can, if we're going to move forward with this, if you think it's worth our time to move forward with this, we're gonna, need to see bank statements or something else that can prove some of the stuff that you guys are saying on here,
Yeah. Yeah.
or help fill in some of the gaps here that are missing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And when we're talking smaller properties, and I'm saying smaller as in under 20 or 30 units, a
mhm.
lot of times what you'll come across is a seller who just didn't really keep good records. It's
Yeah,
not that they, are
they're trying
trying
to
to
hide
pull
something,
something off
right?
or hide something.
Right.
They just didn't keep good records. I always kind of make the joke. A lot of people run smaller properties like a used car, right? Some
Yep.
rent comes in, they just fling that in the checking account. So the
Yep.
breaks, they just swipe the credit card to fix it. They're not really paying much attention. And
Yep.
then you come along and say, okay, give me the numbers, give me the Carfax, right? Give me the information on this thing
Yeah.
here. And they go, "Oh, what?"
Yeah. Like, what are you
And
talking
especially
about?
if you're asking for like a T12 or a rent roll, things like that under sub 20 units, they may not even know what you're talking about. So that is
Yeah, it's
normal in
true.
a lot of cases. Yeah, I want everybody to understand that you're not always going to get good, clean data,
Yeah.
especially not on smaller properties. You're just going to have to learn how to recreate. In
Yeah.
that case, now we're going to have to use averages. You're going to have to
Yeah.
kind of just generalize some of the information in the market. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's not uncommon. Not
That's a
everybody is good
really
at
good point.
business. Yeah,
Actually,
they're just not good bookkeeping.
Yeah, and you're right, and that's and a lot of the smaller units that we've looked at, it's been exactly that. They've either
Right.
had no numbers or very
Yeah.
limited amounts of data, or if anything, the broker just tried to throw something together really quick,
Correct. You got the
right?
old shoebox full of receipts kind of thing, and
Yeah,
somebody put something together for you real quick.
yeah,
Yeah, not uncommon at all, especially not in smaller properties.
yeah,
Really, all you can do there, I can give everybody some pretty quick math. What you need to do there is just to figure out what is the rent in the area. You may already know. All right, so how many units do we have times average rent
mhm,
times 12 divided by 2? All
yeah,
right, there's your valuation. So all you need to do is what's the average rent in the area, multiply that by the number of units that you have, multiply that by 12. That's roughly your annual income. It's pretty
yeah,
close, right? That's good
yeah,
enough. Divide by 2. What I'm doing there is applying a 50% expense ratio.
yeah,
That's a little heavy-handed, by the way, for smaller properties. 50% for expenses is a little more common on larger properties, but it's good and conservative if we're doing just roundabout estimates and it's easy math. So
yeah,
number of units times the rent times 12 divide by 2. That gives us an estimated net operating income. All right.
yeah,
From there, all you have to do is apply your cap rate. So you just multiply by cap rate. Then now you have a valuation. Not an exact valuation, but it's a pretty close one, and it'll get you a conversational price.
Yep.
right? That's what I call that. It'll get you a price where you can start talking to the seller about a number, feel them out, see where they're at, see if you're even close. Because if they come
Yep.
back with some kind of number that's way away from your number, obviously you're wasting your time and you can just move on. But that's a real
Yeah.
kind of back of the napkin way to evaluate an income producing. I won't even say multifamily because you can do that with single family or anything from the income perspective, right? Income
Can
producing real estate.
Can you touch a little bit on cap rate? This was something
Yeah,
that I struggled with as a
sure.
new multifamily investor, and I know a lot of other people struggle with this. I understand it now. Obviously, we can talk about this, but there's different cap rates for different sides of the deal. If you're when you're buying the deal, there's a cap rate that you need to hit, and when they're
Right,
selling the deal, there's a cap rate that they need to
right.
hit. I've always been told from a buying perspective, your cap rate that you go in at needs to be higher than the interest rate you're paying on the loan, at
Right. Yeah.
least,
Yeah. Exactly.
right?
Yeah. Your operational cap rate. So
Yeah,
first off, for your listeners, if you're not familiar with what cap rate is, it's capitalization rate, and that is the value divided, or the excuse me, the net operating income. So income minus operating expenses equals NOI. So it's the NOI divided by the price or the value. If we're saying price, then the cap rate you're calculating is, as Justin is saying, your operational cap rate, right? That's saying this price, this property with that NOI gives me this cap rate.
hmm
If we're talking value, that's more of a market cap rate. That's more of like comparable sale in houses, like what's everybody just paying in the area. So we can talk
yeah,
market cap rate or a purchase cap rate, very specific to the property we're buying.
yeah,
And yes, if your purchase cap rate, when you sit down and do the math, is less than the interest rate for the loan on that property, you're not going to cash flow. So
yeah,
if you're out looking at a property and you've calculated a 5.5 cap rate, and you're getting a 6.5% interest rate loan, yeah, I can tell you right now without a calculator, that's not going to cash flow. I'm not saying it's a bad deal because really cap rate is not enough information.
yeah,
We need more info, right?
yeah,
Because my next question would be, okay, so the cap rate is low.
yeah,
Why? All right, because think about it, it's as I said, it's that formula. It's in relationship with the NOI. Well, the NOI may be low for certain reasons, like occupancy, right? If you
yeah.
just have if low occupancy will give you a low cap rate, that's because your net operating income is low due to the lack of rent
The
and lack
lack
of
of
tenants
rentals.
living
Yeah,
there, giving you this very low cap rate, but
yeah,
that's not necessarily the real value of that property. So not enough information on cap rates, right?
yeah,
I always kind of tell everybody it's like a Swiss Army knife. Right, if you're familiar with a Swiss Army knife, right, it has scissors and fingernail clippers and the screwdriver and this, that, and that. So the Swiss Army knife does all kind of stuff, but it doesn't do any one thing very well. Like when you need a screwdriver, do you really go look for your Swiss Army knife? You know what I mean? When you got to cut your
right.
nails, do you really go get the Swiss Army knife? Like everybody has one of those stupid things, but
I
they
do
really
if
don't
I know
use it
it's
for anything.
closer.
Yeah, and it's like it has all these things, if it doesn't
Yeah,
do anything very well. Cap rate is kind of like that.
yeah,
It does lots of things. It gives us lots of these different types of evaluations. Yeah, you've got your purchase cap rate, your operational cap rate, your refinance, your sale, your seller's buying cap rate. Great. It does all these little different things, but it doesn't do any one thing very well.
yeah.
And
That's a
so that's
really
why I
good
say
way to
really
put it.
don't,
That's
yeah,
a good
don't
way to
live and
put it.
die by cap rate. Don't
Yeah,
don't say it's cap rate, and I'm buying it at this, that, and therefore it's a deal. It's just
yeah,
not enough information, right?
yeah.
So
That's a
it
really
is
good point.
a valuation method, not the valuation method.
Would you say this is a good another good way to look at cap rate too? It's when you're looking at a property to purchase. I'm talking from
Mhm.
the buy side, right? You're looking at a property to
Sure.
purchase. The cap rate that you're looking at is a indication of risk on some level, right?
It can be. That is
Yeah.
a way of looking at it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is one way of looking
Is
at
one
it.
way of
Yep.
looking at it. Yeah. And
Yep.
so that was kind of like when my initial introduction into cap rates, that's kind of the first way I looked at it. It's like, look, if when someone is trying to sell a property to you, they're trying to sell it as the low at a low cap rate or as low as they can get it, right? To boost up their sale price, right?
Sure.
The lower the cap rate on the sales side, the lower the cap rate, the higher the sale
Right.
price is going to be. There's an
Right.
inverse relationship, right? And
Correct.
vice versa on the buy side.
Correct.
So if I'm looking at a property and it's determined that they're trying to sell it at a lower than than average cap rate. What they're trying to tell me, what I say is like, oh, okay, cool. If you're selling and you got this low cap rate, you're trying to sell this thing at, there should be like limited deferred maintenance. I should be getting something that's got a lot of occupancy, that's cash flowing, that's, I'm not going to be walking into a ton of deferred maintenance. That's kind of how I view it on
Okay, so
some level.
it's either that or 100% the opposite
Right,
side of the coin. You
right.
have a low cap rate because of high vacancy, because
Yeah.
of deferred maintenance,
Oh, I see
because
what
of
you're saying. I
all of
see what you're
those
saying.
things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
either exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
Hey,
yes.
you're asking a low cap rate, which by the way means a high price
Yeah.
in relation to the cash flow
Which
this
most
thing's
sellers are
producing.
asking for, by the way.
Right. Right. So if you're saying you want a lot of money and low cash flow, which means low cap rate, you're saying the property better be in great shape, better not have anything wrong with it, better be a great location and all these great
Yeah,
things. I
yeah,
agree if it is what we call a momentum play, which
yeah,
means there's no value add. It just
yeah,
is what it is, and you're buying it, set it, forget it. Yes, I
yeah,
agree completely.
yeah, yeah,
But remember, in our ratio scenario here, we can have a distressed asset that creates an artificially low cap rate, right?
yeah.
So
That's
if I'm
true.
looking at a property and it has 60% occupancy, which when I look at the price and 60% occupancy, I say, gosh, that's a low cap rate.
Yeah,
Right. But let me now do a pro forma on the property. Okay, same property, same price, but now it's at 95% occupancy,
yeah.
not 60.
Now
What
you
is
got a
my
higher
cap
cap
rate
rate.
now?
Yeah.
Oh, it's this huge cap rate. Okay, well then hold on. I just found a good deal. It's telling me that yes, I'm buying at a low cap rate with a path to progress
Yeah,
to decompress the
yeah,
cap rate, right? So this is
yeah,
a live example. I bought a real deal at a 2 cap rate, one of the best deals I ever bought. Not enough information. And this is why I
yeah,
say cap rates, that Swiss Army thing, right?
yeah.
So yeah, you would say, well, I bought it at a 2 cap rate, therefore that's an extremely expensive property.
Well, how are you going to
Yeah.
resell? How are you going to sell it? Right. That's
Okay,
how
well,
we have
right.
to.
So 2 cap rate, you would say right there, that's really expensive. Yeah, but the property was literally at 60% occupancy. So what
Right.
I did was I sat down and I did a pro forma and I said, well, what is the cap rate if I buy the property, price is the same, and I bring the occupancy up to
And get it
95%?
all the way up to
All of a sudden it
90%.
was like a 12 cap rate.
Yep.
All right. Now the
Yep.
market was at a 7. So I was able to buy at a 2.
Hmm.
18 months later, I'm at a 12 due to renovations and
Nice.
bringing occupancy up. I was
Mhm.
able to turn around and sell at a 7. So I bought at a
Nice.
2, decompressed to a 12, sold at a 7, made a killing.
Nice.
So that's where
Nice.
I kind of have to use that example and say, see, this is why cap rate is a moving target. It's kind of like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, it
You
really
need to be a
is.
little
Yeah.
careful with cap rate.
Yep.
It's not as tangible as you might think, and so
Yeah.
that's where I say don't live and die by cap rate.
Don't live and die by Cabernet. And I would also for brokers, especially brokers who've been in this for a long time, if that's like if you're talking to brokers and that's like your main question or questions them, they're gonna know you probably don't have enough experience.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would argue that anyways, but yeah, and again it starts to make more sense. By the way, I was all kind of hung up on cap rate and it
right.
finally I forget who it was, but somebody finally pulled me aside and be like, look, man, stop worrying about that. Stop worrying about that. It's going to make more sense to you the more deals you look at, the more deals you underwrite. It'll start to present itself to you and make way more sense. And that's what I would say to anybody watching who's like thinking we're speaking Chinese right now. Don't worry too much about it. As you look at more and more deals, all of a sudden that cap rate understanding starts to present itself to you.
It
So,
does. Well,
all right,
practice it comes together.
it does, right? And so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
At what point did you stop thinking like an investor buying a deal and start thinking like an operator running a business? Like I know that's kind of a loaded question a little bit, but
I,
um
it's funny. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I was actually talking to the wife about this the other day, just this very moment. The day, and it was I was I was several years into the business. The day I'm sitting on my couch and I'm looking at my books and I'm looking at the income and expenses, and I realize I'm not making any money. And I go, wait, hold on, no.
yeah,
I
yeah.
flipped this property and I sold this and did this and I add the math up and I go, it's negative. I'm not making any money. And I realized what I was doing was living off of essentially a line of credit I was drawing down on. And what I was
Hmm.
doing was I thought I was being profitable. I was buying real estate, fixing it up, flipping it, taking the money, putting it back on the line of credit,
Hmm.
then buying another one, fixing and flipping. But what I wasn't realizing is that in my life over here, I was steadily grinding away living costs against each flip. And I was actually outliving the profit that I was getting from flipping. And so I realized, okay, hold on, this isn't going to work. I've got to get
Yeah.
into something more stable, multifamily, whatever that's going to produce
Yeah.
that revenue. So it was literally my aha moment when I went, okay, hold on, I got to stop. I'm not an investor, right? I
Yeah.
gotta get serious here. An investor is somebody who has a lot of money looking to put it into something and get a rate of return on it.
Yeah.
If I didn't just describe you, you're an entrepreneur. If you're here to
Yeah.
create money where it doesn't currently exist, you're not an investor. And I don't care whether you're doing single family, multifamily, or what, you need to drop that investor terminology because it's a nomenclature issue, but it's a small one, but it's really huge.
It's a
You need to
mindset
be
thing for
thinking.
sure.
It's a really small, big thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And I had to start treating myself like a business, thinking like a business. But it's funny you asked that because it was literally the day I kind of realized I'm doing a lot of business and I'm not actually profitable.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
as profitable as I thought I was. Yeah, and I had to start learning accounting books and I mean not high level accounting, but just like, hey, what's coming in, what's going
We're
out?
back to numbers again,
Am
right?
I keeping
Understanding your
some of
numbers.
this or not?
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, we're back to numbers again, right? You got to understand.
Yeah.
And again, nobody's saying you need to become an accounting expert, but it would
No,
probably,
not at all.
right, probably behoove you to
But
understand.
everybody should have like the
Yeah.
basic understanding of
Yeah.
money coming in and money going out,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
type of thing. So,
One of the biggest failures I see in businesses, and this is even really more in the education space, and not even just multifamily owners, but just general business operators, is they hit success early and they don't
Mhm.
realize that their burn rate is higher than they realize. And so they're selling and they're selling and selling, and money is coming in. And because money's coming in, they spend said money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Not realizing, well, the sales may decline. You may not always be at this level of revenue, and revenue tends to rise and fall. And so their expenditures go right up with the revenue dips, but now their expenses are still too high. So that's something I see very, very common, sort
Yeah.
of in that line of thought there.
That's a good
Uh,
point. That's a
yeah,
good
yeah,
point. Do
watch that.
you know who Cody Sanchez is?
I do
Have you
not.
heard that
Mm-mm.
name before? So,
what?
yeah, yeah. Well, we'll introduce you. We'll
Please
send you
do.
more information. But she is a well-known entrepreneur. She buys businesses, right? So she owns a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
businesses.
There you go.
And one of her famous sayings, or at least one that I really really like, is "Money is a cruel mistress. If you don't pay attention to her, she will leave you."
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah,
And
yeah,
that, right.
yes,
So and I
yeah,
would say from an entrepreneur perspective, one of the first things that I did when I was learning this, or thinking about getting into starting owning a business or running a business, was I started looking at how to read just basics of how to read a profit and loss statement, how to read a balance sheet, right? Those just very basic things can help you tremendously understand what your business is actually doing, and like
yeah,
how well are you
absolutely.
actually doing.
Yeah,
um well, let me ask you, and I know we're getting towards the end here, so I don't want to keep you too long.
sure, no problem.
But what would you say are the biggest risks in multifamily that really don't show up clearly in underwriting? I know we've talked a little bit about this already, but maybe one of the biggest single risks that you can think of, and you talked about building age. Is there anything else besides building age that maybe doesn't show up clearly in underwriting models?
Yeah, yeah. An easy one. It's the biggest reason for failure in the entire business.
Hmm.
Boredom.
Say that one more time.
Boredom.
Bored? Oh man.
You just get
Please
bored and you
elaborate.
stop doing it. You
Oh, yeah.
just you just Tuesday.
Yeah.
Life just turns into a string of Tuesdays and you wander off.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing people miss on the underwriting is they just quit doing it. It's not
Oh,
the
man.
one thing. There's no one thing. There's no, oh, here's the magic number, and if you get it right or if you get it wrong, it's not like that. It's just people get bored. They don't get
Yeah.
the traction that they were looking for. They don't hit the big fireworks out of the gate and close their first deal in a few weeks and riding around all this fancy stuff, and they just stop doing it. They just wander off. And so people ask me like, oh, what's the number one reason for failure and this and that? Boredom. You just get bored.
That's a
Everybody thinks it's like
really,
foreclosure and bankruptcy and all that. No, 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 no. That's this amount.
yeah.
The rest of it's you just screw it off.
I, that's a really
Yeah,
interesting response. That was not
yeah.
what I was
That's the one thing
expecting.
you're not going to find on that balance sheet or
Yeah,
on
that's
the
a
spreadsheet.
really good
Yeah.
answer. That's
Mhm.
a and it's
Tuesday.
very true. I'm guilty. Guilty as
Yeah,
charged. Guilty as charged.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's a tough one.
man, getting bored and now again, like, look, this is part of being an entrepreneur. Part of this journey is doing the
Exactly.
things that are boring and doing
Yes.
them anyways and doing them day in
Yes.
and day out, right? Um,
That's the key to success.
I,
Doing it anyway.
yeah.
Overriding the boredom. Just show up and do it anyway.
Yeah, like Alex Hormozy. I don't know if you know who Alex Hormozy is.
I do. I've heard that name.
Yeah, yeah, I really like Alex Hormozy's stuff, but he talks about it as like instead of looking at the boring stuff and going, man, why me? You should be looking at the boring stuff and going, wow, everybody else is effed because I'm doing the stuff that they're not able to do. I'm doing the stuff that nobody else is doing. So they're
Exactly.
poor everybody else, basically, is
That's
how you
right.
got to look at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess my last question, but and by the way, Multifamily Wealth Nation is the mentorship,
Yes,
and
correct.
the person that started the mentorship, his name is Josh Rusin. He's a
Correct.
friend of ours, and just a great mentorship, and it really takes you from A to Z. And it's more than that too. It's more than just educational and videos and all that stuff. It's really a community. It's a mentorship where you get to meet real operators, people really in the business, and build partnerships and a network with people that, guess what, when you do find the deal, now you've got people that can help you take it down and help you operate it and get you into that first opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
So, and I'll put a link to the mentorship in the show notes for anybody who's interested, but I would definitely go check it out. I'm very grateful that I joined it. I would not be as educated and as well informed and would not have the partnerships that I have without it. So I'm very grateful for that. And um for you, what are plug a couple of your books? I'd really like to know, and I was
Yeah,
meaning to
sure.
ask you this the other day. What are a couple of books that you've written on?
Yeah, I have two books. I have Real Estate Raw and Creative Cash. Those are the two books, Real Estate Raw and Creative Cash, both
Okay,
available on Amazon.
nice,
Creative Cash is on Audible. Both are on Kindle. But at any rate,
nice,
yeah, those are two books. If you're brand new to real estate, I would recommend Real Estate Raw or brand new to multifamily. That is a step-by-step instruction manual from you've never heard of real estate to syndication, right? From taking you from that level all the way to professional syndicator, right? So it's a
nice,
complete step-by-step process there. Creative
Nice.
Cash is on creative financing specifically. So that's lease options, seller financing, using creative ways to fund real estate. And that's again, it's a multifamily specific type book, but you can use the techniques in there for anything, single family, for anything. But
love
yeah,
it,
Creative Cash and Real Estate Raw, those are the two.
love it. Yeah, that's great.
Thank
I'm gonna go
you.
check those out.
Sure,
Yeah,
pleasure.
and we'll have links to those as well. But I'm definitely gonna go check those out.
Yeah, thanks.
Last question for you, Bill. What advice would you give to your past self if you were starting over today? And with the knowledge you have to obviously right now, what would you tell to your past self? What would be some advice that you give to your past
Yeah,
self?
I've been asked this question a lot, and I've answered it different ways over the years. My answer now, at my age and where I'm at now, would be invest for equity and work for cash flow. And I know that's not probably what everybody wants to hear, especially not in the investing world, the multifamily world. What I've come to realize is that real wealth over time actually comes from equity and equity appreciation, and that comes from location.
Yeah.
And cash flow is great, and you want to get cash flow, and you have to buy for cash flow. But I've come to realize that you don't really get rich on cash flow. And I think we all are a little too worried about cash flow. We talk about cash flow too much. If you build a portfolio over time with good properties in good locations, after a few years, you're going to start to sell these things. You're going to start
Yeah.
refinancing, you're going to start exiting. And the checks that will come from those exits, once you get that system built, will outweigh any amount of cash flow that you're going to get. And so I chased cash flow into rough properties, into rough neighborhoods, into lesser assets, because as you mentioned earlier, I could get the numbers to work out on paper. Yeah,
Yeah.
but in reality, I bought a bad location and a
Yeah.
bad building chasing cash flow, and my exit really wasn't that good. And so I
Yeah.
cash flowed into a mediocre exit.
Yeah.
And so that would be the advice I would give anyone who is new is don't live and die by cash flow. Cash flow is not king. Everybody says that. That's garbage. And you are not buying. When people say I buy for appreciation for it's nice to have. Appreciation is nice to have. No, appreciation is everything in the business. Cash flow you need to have is nice to have. Appreciation. So I've made the vast majority of my money from exits in the business, and so that's what I would,
That's
would
an
tell someone.
interesting perspective. I
Focus
like
on the
that.
exit a lot more.
Yeah, I like that. And that's an
Location,
important.
location.
Yeah, location,
Yeah,
location, location. That's a
yeah,
really
yeah,
good point. It's because you don't think about that. It's like, look, you're focused on cash flow the whole time.
yeah.
You made some money cash flowing, but then, your exit was so poor, or worse yet, you had to come out of pocket
Right, correct. I've had that
for your
happen.
exit, right? And that
Right,
just ate away at years of that
right.
cash flow, right?
But
And
we
once,
we sell this cash flow concept in the world, and our
yeah,
teachers, we all sell this cash flow concept, and it's easy to swallow because everybody wants to imagine sit at home, living on passive revenue, not having to go to work. It's an easy concept to buy and sell, but in
mhm,
reality, it's not where it's at. It's going to take you a few years to build a portfolio. Don't lose momentum. Good locations, get equity. You'll be fine. That's the
yeah,
business.
love it, love it, love it. All right, Bill. Well, listen, I want to respect your time. I really appreciate you
Yeah,
coming on
absolutely. That's a
here.
pleasure.
And do me a favor. You plugged your books. Is there anything else? How can people
No.
get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, I have a different address. You can always go to the multifamilywealthnation.com. You can find us over there. I'll give you my email. It's bill@gobroadwell.com.
Love it.
Broadwell Property Group is my actual business website. If anybody wants to actually check out my real business website, Broadwell Property Group. But bill@gobroadwell, BROADWELL. Yeah, gobroadwell.com. And just reach out to me. I'm around.
Love it.
Thank you.
Bill, thank you so much, man. I'll let you go, but and for those of you who are watching us now or after the fact, thank you guys as well. Like and subscribe, and we will talk to you next time. See you guys.
Take care. Take it easy.
Appreciate you.